Happy Saturday. Bonjour, bon. I should learn this stuff, shouldn't I, really? Oh, yeah, okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching from. Okay, it's Saturday. It's all good. Can't complain. It's been a good winter. Aloha.
Hi. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Morning. I literally slept like a log. I woke up at 7 and I went back to
Good,
bed. And then
good for you.
my father's phone call woke me up at 11:15 and I was like, what? And actually, it's also interesting because I was just thinking to myself, you know how I am, I don't watch the news at all. So I had no idea that there's been riots in Nigeria or in Lagos
Mhm.
due to this whole currency thing. Clueless. So I haven't spoken to any friends in Nigeria,
Mhm.
family, to even find out how they're doing. So I hope everyone is keeping safe. I only found out this morning from the 11 a.m. call that says, you don't even care about me. You never call to find out how I am. And I'm like,
Wow.
so I'm like, hold on.
Passive aggressiveness. Oh my God. God
You
help
can
us,
you can
Nigerians.
expect
We're
that from
passive
parents.
aggressive.
That was my father this morning. Like he even tried to call us. I'm like, sorry,
Oh,
what is going on? And it's like he was running and telling nobody, everybody else has checked in on us. I'm like, okay, everybody else probably watches the news, and
you know, my eyes are more.
I do not watch any news at all. So
Exactly.
I just hope that all my friends in Lagos know that I care. In Nigeria, I just don't watch the news, which is why I haven't checked in. But I hope everyone is safe and keeping well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do hope everyone is safe and
because
they
it's really hard to get cash, right? So it's hard to buy the basic things, and people have money in the bank but can't spend it.
yeah. Well,
Tough.
those are Nigerian issues created by the leaders.
Yes, and
Frustrating.
it's ramping up onto the election, isn't it? I think after the election, people expect things to just it's it's a pain. It's a pain.
It is indeed
Anyway.
a pain, but we're going to stick to the positives. It is a good
Oh,
day to be alive. We all woke up today. We're
100%.
all healthy. Like, I hope and I pray everybody's healthy. And I hope you have something to be thankful for and to smile about. We did say that for this 2023, we want to be intentional about being grateful and not focusing on too much of what you haven't achieved yet or the things that didn't work out, and more of the things that you're thankful for and the things that you've actually accomplished and achieved so far. So I hope everyone has, and if you have something special that's happened to you and you want to be thankful and you want to share with us, go ahead and put it in the chat. We will want to celebrate you and celebrate with you.
100%. Um, how was your week? My week was interesting. How was yours?
It was Valentine's week, so I've been in the
Oh,
in the love
yes,
mood
yes,
all week,
yes.
loving myself first of all. And I was shocked that on Valentine's Day I woke up and I don't really check people's statuses, but I thought, okay, let me check people's statuses because we have the ones who want to show off, and then we have the ones who hate Valentine's Day for whatever reason. And this year I found that I saw a lot of hate in Valentine's. It's just like the only thing that's in the air is oxygen. Stop kidding yourself. There's nothing like Valentine's Day. There's just a lot of negativity, and I really feel sad for this world that we currently live in. It's for me, Valentine's Day is not about whether you have a romantic partner or not. That's not the point. It's just a day for you to remember. We celebrate so many other days throughout the year, but again, when you focus on what you don't have, then you spew a lot of hate. I saw a lot of hate posts that day, from people who either don't believe in it for whatever reason, maybe they have bad experience, whatever. It doesn't really matter for me. But just for people to really post such things, I felt really, really sad. And I was like, you know what? I will send love to everybody. And I hope that people can accept and receive love, because you have to be open to receive love before you can give it. You can't give what you don't have. Very sad.
Yeah, interesting. So, did I go on social media at all this week? I can't even remember. I don't think I even scrolled. Did I? No, I don't remember going on social media at all this week. My week was great, actually. I think Valentine's Week Day was chill, was fun. You're right. People were sending messages remembering you, and it was also good that it wasn't necessarily only for romantic partners, as you said, in a particular sense. Um, I think it's funny how the mind blurs out everything else and you capitalize on only one experience. I think when I think about my week, all I can think about is my American Airlines travel experience. The fact that I had a 7:45 flight and they were delayed, they didn't get us on the plane until 8:45, 8:50, and then said they had to de-ice the plane. When we finally left the gate and got to the icing, and then around 10 o'clock, no, oh no, I lied. I think they didn't get us on the plane until 9 o'clock. And then they did all the icing. And when they were done with the de-icing and we're about to take off, we said, okay, we're done with the icing. Now that took an hour. And we're about to taxi off or whatever, because we're already on the tarmac, on the runway. And then they went off and then just stopped and said, sorry, we just really informed that due to a duty scheduling issue, we can no longer proceed with this flight. I was like, beg your pardon? I beg your pardon? And they're like, we're sorry, speak to the ground staff about your accommodation issues. And they took us back to the gate, yes. Imagine the emotion. And I was there early. I was at the gate at 6:05, just because I had done a full day of work. So I thought, okay, I'll be there early. So just sit down with the Chicago flight to, boarded and took off in front of me because it was the same gate. And then, so you can imagine the roller coaster of emotion, thinking we're late, we're going, telling my people I'm on my way. And then suddenly we're just about to, and they go, sorry, we're not going anymore. We're going back to the gate. So this is 11:20-ish when we finally escort us. You're not allowed to go back through yourself. They have to escort you because you're not flying, you're not there. So you have to wait, and they escort you to the whatever. And then everyone's trying to make calls to try and get a new flight. And then this is a holiday weekend. Every flight is fully booked. And then it's just like random, because when you get to the person in front of you, they might say, sorry, there's no flight. And then you might get there and they're like, oh, once it just became available on this flight, connects through here. So I ended up going. First of all, having no flights at 7 o'clock on Saturday. And I'm like, well, that doesn't help me because that is the whole weekend gone. And then so I left them and went back. When I came back round, then the lady said, oh, I think there is a seat now available on a 6 a.m. flight. Well, check-in is, 4 a.m., blah, blah. This is just after midnight. And I thought to myself, she said, well, it doesn't take you straight because this is your 1 hour, 30-minute flight, or 1 hour, 20-minute flight. So we're going to take you to Charlotte, which is a 2 hour,
you
2 hour
to go
something.
To Charlotte, so yeah, you finally went to Charlotte.
I passed through Charlotte. We get to Charlotte, and then it's a 2 hour, 30-minute, and then whilst you're there, so the entire thing was going to take you about 4.5 hours, which is supposed to be 1 hour, 30-minute flight. I just said, you know what, I'll take it. At this point, she said, well, if you don't want it, and there's another guy next to me that they gave him a flight that was direct, but he was going to leave at 12 noon, and he didn't want that. But we couldn't swap, because if you put it back on the system, it can just disappear. It goes away. So we stood there looking at each other thinking, this makes no sense. I'll take it. But then the question was, are you going to go back home? Because this is past midnight. Your flight is at 4. You need to be back here for 3:30, 4 o'clock. You're very tired. If you go home, what are you going to do? Because if I put my head on a pillow, it's not happening. I'm so exhausted. It's not happening. So you know how our airports are. There's nothing to do, nothing to see in Toronto Airport. So it was a big decision. So that was my experience. That day, ended up sitting upright throughout at the airport, filing my taxes while I was at it, trying to sleep off
Something
in between.
Positive came out of it.
By the time I was done and it was time to go and check in, I just felt, and then all those people were new in the morning. The morning staff, good morning, good morning. I was just like,
you don't know what I've been through.
So that's all I can think of when I think about my week. Now the rest of the week just feels like a blur. Like I can't even remember what really happened. That was my first American airline flight, and I think it might likely be my last.
It might not have anything to do with the airline, to be honest, because I experienced the same thing when I was going to Arizona in December. So I think that that's the nature of where we live. In Canada, you have weather-related disruptions to your air travel.
But it wasn't weather though. They said it was due to duty.
And then after the de-icing, then now there's a spillover. There's a spillover effect.
Yes, there's a spillover effect. Yeah.
But in everything, there's always a positive that came out of it. you were able to sleep till 11:15, which is not like you. By now, if you were in Toronto, you'd have been to the gym, gone kickboxing, gone yeah. But at least now you're forced to rest and you're able to have a refreshing, finally a
Yes.
restful weekend. So that's very good. That's
Yeah.
something positive for me that's come for you.
He did, and it's funny because I thought about what Tony last week. You were here, you would have heard us had a very special guest, Tony. Hi, Emmanuel. Had a very special guest called Tony, and Tony talked to us about spirituality at the different levels, and he talked about getting to the level of desirelessness. And I sat there at the airport thinking for hours, those hours that I had, thinking about how do I express desirelessness right now, because I have a desire to be somewhere. This is why I'm actually here. And so how do I, and then when there was a phrase my uncle said to me, he said, everything works together for your good. And so Tony was talking about believing that every outcome is the right outcome. And I was like, that's a very tough one to chew right now. So I sat down at that airport for hours, chewing on, so what could be, how is this outcome a good outcome? How can I express desirelessness in this particular situation? It was an interesting time itself. I couldn't find the answer, but when I but when I thought about every outcome being a good outcome, I thought, okay, I don't know what the outcome, what the alternatives are, but this outcome, I accept it, and it is good as well. Yeah. So yeah.
And that could be the reason why, for you to learn that lesson, to bring awareness to some of the things that we were speaking about with Tony last week, where you might never be at a point or you may have never been aware of a point in your life where you had to detach from the outcome, but now you experienced it and you were in the moment thinking about, okay, how do I actually detach from this outcome and not desire any particular result? So maybe that was the reason, and I think it's a worthwhile reason, because we all have to get to that point. Georgia, how are you? We have to get to that point where we're able to live at that level. Where I'm not there, a lot of us are not there, but we have to keep being aware and learning each and every single day.
Yeah, so yeah, that was my week.
Awesome.
That was it. It's for my week.
I like it. Okay, so we want to invite people, if there's anybody on who wants to come and join us, if you have something you want to talk about, you want to share an experience from your week, from the year so far, or maybe you might have nuggets or lessons that have helped you in life and you want to share to be able to help other people, that's great. Again, this is just the mastermind where we hold space for people to share whatever it is that's on their mind. It could be a project, it could be a life lesson, doesn't really matter. We're here to help one another grow. I want to learn from you, and we'll share as much as we can. Let me see. So, Gbemi, what else do we want to learn? What else do we want to share today? I mean,
yeah, what?
I'm in a really, really good mood today, to be honest.
Okay. What is
not sure why, but
I guess we choose our moods anyway. So hey, it's a good choice that you've made today. I think I don't know, but a lot of my week was actually thinking about what Tony shared last week. Really, a lot of my week was spent thinking about, and it's interesting because a lot of the people that I kind of hung out with during the week all had experiences or a different level of maturity in that particular space. And it's interesting because when I was talking to one of them, he said to me, that ideally he doesn't talk about these things, or it doesn't ever come up. And it's interesting how it's come up now, and he's able to really share. And he was talking, sounding just like almost like Tony.
Wow.
And I was smiling to myself that if this person had said this to me a couple of weeks or months back when I wasn't in this space, I think, well, you're on your own. Thank you very much. It was nice to meet you. I don't want to know you anymore, in that sense. And so I realized that when you're ready for a level of growth or a new space, and you start living in that awareness, and you start being more intentional or thinking about it, you find out that the universe of God has a way of bringing everybody else around you to help form that alignment and to help confirm the things that you're wondering about or answer the things that you're questioning about. That's what I have found. It feels like everybody around me suddenly is a spiritual person. It has, on some part or doing some or has some understanding or whatever that I previously would never have been open-minded enough to understand or to even listen to. So that was very interesting. Seriously, think about the three people they were all like, oh yeah, and how do you do your breathing and how do you do your this and you should try this and when your energy you should try that. I was like, oh okay, you know. So I think that was a big learning for me. So I want to say that if you're aspiring for something or you're in a space where you're trying to explore something or learn something, or you think you're ready for something, stay in that space and talk about it, because you'll be surprised how many people around you either already have experience, have understanding that they can actually share with you. That's what I'm finding. You know, people around you
I,
having
I,
experience and understanding.
yeah, I think the saying is where you focus on, energy flows. So because now you're kind of focusing on that, you've zoomed in on that. Now there's a lot of energy flowing towards it, and you start to attract more people like that because now your soul is ready for that. So more people who are in alignment will come into your life. So yeah, you're right. With everything in life, if there's something that it's the same way when you want to buy a car, the moment you say, oh, I want to buy a white Tesla M3 or whatever, then you start seeing the same car every single place you go. So that's how life is. Whatever you focus on, the universe will start to send things your way, and you will see more and more of it, and it will send people in your way to help you achieve it. That's why they always say, don't focus on the how it's going to happen. Focus on what it is that you want to happen, and watch things align and fall into place.
And I smile about that how, because that was a conviction. Because my struggle in the last 2 weeks on a different note has really been around breaking away from how. Like my analytical mind just keeps jumping in. I'm like, oh, come on. And when I think about something, I laugh. I said, there goes a possibility. The fact that I thought about it is not going to happen. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks again. There goes another possibility. But the thing is, we talked about the previously about how, about the what and allowing, God to take care of the how and
Yeah.
believing, and how that is what faith really means. I struggled, say, last week or two, not this past week, but prior 2 weeks. And every time I think about something that I want, my brain just automatically shifts into how again. So I had to go back to the basics of some of the material that I had previously consumed and started consuming and just trying to flush out. And again, it's funny because last night I was talking to my uncle and my aunt, and we're going through stuff. And my uncle was talking to me about how sometimes how you can be so wealthy but still be stuck in poor mentally, because you're so focused on stockpiling, and you think about the dependents around you, what you want to help them achieve in their life, and you're so focused on the how. So you're trying to make it happen until you realize that you're not even the person that's supposed to make it happen. So we got into this conversation again about how being very solution-minded people, we can jump very quickly into the how because we find safety or reassurance in the how, and that's not where faith actually lies. Faith resides in not knowing the how, but believing that the what is still going to actually show up. So yeah, when you're talking about the how, I felt convicted because that is something that I've been struggling with, and then we spoke about it again last night. So if you're like me, and when you put a plan in play or you think about something that you desire, the first thing that comes to mind is how. And it just shuts it down for you, or it gets you into this spiral of survival and trying to make it happen and thinking about all the possibilities, then it's not worth it. So get out of it. I don't know what you can do for you. I don't know how it works for you. I'm happy to talk about that if you're on this call and you find yourself falling into but how, then let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's and again, conditioning, how we're raised. Some people are just naturally that way, where they always go into activation mode. You want to start executing, you want to start figuring things out, and you're stuck in there. You're constantly spinning because you feel like you need to take action. There's many levels to it and many steps, but I know people here, you're talking about faith. So there's faith-based action. So it doesn't say inaction. So that you focus on just what it is that you want doesn't mean never take any action. But we're saying take the right action. You have to wait for the right hunch to come, and then you know what action to take. So the question is, how do you know which hunch is the right hunch and not just the voices of everybody else around you? Because again, we've talked about this before, where a lot of people, the moment you have an idea or you want to do something, you start calling the entire universe. Everybody, family, friend, brother, uncle, sister, co-worker, everything, whoever is working on the street. What do you think about this? And then you get into confusion mode. So before you take action, once you have an intention that you've set, you need to go to your gut feeling, because that's where it's at. Like, it's hard to explain, but it's right there. You would know deep down inside of you, and it will be a peaceful, you'll feel that peace. It will not be agitation. It will not be, oh, but what if, when in doubt, take no action. That's the way I operate anyway. When in doubt, if you're feeling anxiousness, that anxiety, some people say, oh, that anxiousness, anxiety means you're on the right track. Okay, if it works for you, fine. For me, when there's anxiousness, it means that my spirit is not in alignment. So I need to calm down and just wait for that peaceful action that says, this is the next step. I feel peace in my heart. Then I can move. It doesn't mean you cannot seek opinions from people, but opinions are not fact. And don't be quick to start when you have someone say, oh, no, you need to do X, Y, Z. That's right. Oh my God, it's going to be a lot of work. Then you start panicking, and then the self-doubt comes in, and then you start spiraling out of control. So set your intention, go within, go focus on, hey, what does my spirit want? What is the next move? What is the right move I need to take? And then you can take the action, but not the other way around. Don't start acting before you have confirmed with your spirit what the right way to go is.
100%. Yeah, I like that. When in doubt, take no action. That's a good way.
I'm just
Good way to
dragging
go.
random people now to come and join us on stage.
No, but it's funny because I think the last few weeks when we've had people join us on stage, it's been very interesting because they start off with, I'm not even sure why I'm here, what am I going to share? And then as we always go with the flow, it comes up being some very impressive things that they end up sharing. Hi, Romeo. I know you're in Lagos. It'll be good to hear how things are going for you and
Romeo
how you're
needs to
feeling it.
update his he needs to update his app, because every time I try to invite him, he says he has an old version of the app, so he cannot be invited to the stage.
That might be a strategy. You never know.
He's doing that.
Hello. We can see you.
Hi, Richard.
Hi. Hi, Joan. Hi, Lady in Red.
Hi, my name is Gbemi.
Hi, Gbemi.
Hi. So,
How are you doing, Richard? Richard, share with us some stories. Share with us some life lessons that you've been through.
Oh, well, I'm not the normal kind of person. I think for me, I usually just jump into something without even finishing up the whole plan. So I'm like crazily optimistic.
mm,
Kind of person I think I moved into school, started taking classes even before I got my admission. That's how crazy it is.
So has that worked for you? Would you say that that has been something positive that has led you to where you are today? Or if you could do things differently, would you want a different option?
It has kind of worked for me, because that's also the same way I got into a TESOL when I wanted to work there. I just went into there and told, I think it was Charles Ogunwe then, that I want to work for a TESOL, and that was just it. So it has worked sometimes, but I think as we get older, we should start. It makes more sense to put some things in place, like plans and actions. Because me, I just jump into the battle first, and now, okay, let's figure out who we're fighting.
You lose an arm here, lose one eye here, but let's just go.
Yeah.
no, that's very interesting. I don't think I've met people who do that, actually. That's very, very interesting. But it's worked for you, right?
Yeah.
Have you, when you think about it, what has been the biggest, so you talk about, okay, what has been the biggest lesson or one moment where you're like, okay, maybe this is not, this approach probably doesn't work in this scenario?
When it comes into relationships.
I knew that was going to likely be it, but I didn't want to lead the weakness.
Yeah. It makes sense for me to think things through. So for going forward, I will think things through on that part. But probably other things, I might still just jump into the battle and figure it out as we're going. But on that part, yeah, I've made some.
Oh, Father Richard, here's your case. Some people can handle it. Not everybody can handle it. So
yeah, don't follow me.
For some people,
this works for just me sometimes.
But and some people have the heart for it, because I feel like some people can take on more risks than others.
Mm.
Some people, when there's a lot of risk, they suffer from anxiety. They become so anxious. They can't sleep at night. Oh, what's going to happen? Oh my God. Oh, I haven't thought it through. But for some people, you have something inside of you, Richard. I know you're saying it like you just jump in, but there's something inside of you that is telling you, go for this. You're on the right track. Do it. Some people don't have that conviction. They just listen to what people are saying. Okay, they say I should move. Oh yeah, let me jump in. And then you go in and you start panicking. You start having sleepless nights. You start, eating too much or losing weight if you're me. And then your life becomes a mess. And then you start looking for who to blame. But Richard, you were the one that said I should jump in. Please, Richard did not say anybody should jump in. No. As your mind and your spirit leads you, jump in.
Yeah. I don't think there's any rule to it.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I like to start something before I start doubting myself. So because if I sit down and want to analyze stuff, I'll start doubting. So I'll jump right in. So once I'm already there, there's no reason for doubt anymore. I'm already there. Let's start fighting this battle. Yeah. Because I think I get to overanalyze stuff and yeah. So
I know when you were saying that, oh, don't jump, yeah, you're right. Don't have to exactly be like Richard. But sometimes it's the exercise that your heart needs. You never know what your body can do and your mind can do. What your body can do is your mind that needs convincing, because sometimes we overthink things. And that's why they have this 5-second rule about within 5 seconds, if you don't decide, you're most likely not going to do that thing or even get up to take the action, because now you're going to go into for your analytical whatever, your logical actually kicks in. Sometimes it's good to jump in, because once you're in a situation, your mind reframes, and goes away from okay, why. So okay, so listen, because your brain is set to keep the balance, but also when the balance in its understanding is safety. Yeah. Balance in its understanding is keeping you safe. Yeah. So if you are like Richard and you find yourself in a situation, you jump in, right? When things begin to happen, your brain is like, okay, well, now we're here. You listen to me. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. This is how we're going to win. It changes. Rather than trying to say, oh, it doesn't spend so much time thinking, oh, how are we going to do it? Why did you bring us here? No, because it doesn't have that kind of time. Your brain is now immediately switched into the fact of, okay, I need to keep you safe. I need to make sure that we can keep a balance. And this is how you're going to go about doing it. And immediately you begin to think about the solution on that. Okay, I'm here. This is how it's going to work. But when you're waiting for the solution before you jump in, you haven't tweaked anything in your brain. So as far as your brain is concerned, keeping you safe in that moment is doing nothing. Yeah. Is maintaining status quo. And so you need to understand that, it might seem funny. It's like when people say take an ice bath to shock your system. It's similar to what Richard is doing, because he shocks the system, and then the system immediately tweaks into that format of, okay, what do we need to do right here? Because our job is to keep him safe, is to keep this being, as it were, together. So your heart begins to pump a lot more blood to make sure that, okay, you can do whatever. It's what happens when you're running. When you're running a marathon, in fact, before you get to there's a post somebody sent to me. It said, if you want to find yourself run a marathon, because there'll be questions that you would ask yourself in that moment, thinking, what am I doing? How, there'll be all kinds of conversation, but your mind will tell you, listen, we're in this already. Heart, you have to pump more blood. Legs, you have to keep moving, because we need to get to the finish line. So everything then resets itself and realigns to get you through it, right? So sometimes if you haven't been like Richard and you've been in the analysis paralysis space, maybe what you're really missing is jumping in. Maybe because that thing on the inside of you is not going to get activated until you actually jump in. So that's kind of how I read what Richard is saying. Because I was laughing and thinking about it, saying, actually, well, he's tricking his mind. He's doing that whole 5-second rule of no overthinking. Once we jump in, everything on the inside of you is going to flip into the position of, okay, how do we keep you? How do we make sure that you get through? How do you make sure that you actually excel and survive? And as far as your brain is concerned, you excelling and surviving in that moment is keeping you safe. That's kind of how I understand it. So, hey, maybe you need to get off the fence and be more like Richard in that particular space. You'll be shocked how much blood your heart can pump and how much work your arms can actually handle.
Well, you might also come out with a lot of scars too, so just keep that in mind.
100%, no growth without scars, right? So yeah, 100%. I love that. I love that. Scars. Yeah. Scars.
I think.
So we go. Sorry. Go on.
Oh, you can go.
I was going to say that. So, but why would we stop doing that in the relationship space? Is what I want to understand from Richard.
What?
It's because the scars over there, the scars over there are slightly harder and deeper.
Ooh.
Why wouldn't we do that in the relationship space?
Hey, Nikki Diesel.
Ah, well, I don't. I think, okay, on that space, I think I've been prone to making very wrong decisions. So it is now wise for me to just wait and figure things out well, then decide if that's the direction, because the scars there are much more long lasting than maybe I'm trying a business and it didn't work, or I'm trying a job, it didn't work, or a career, it didn't work. That one is really much more long lasting. So wisdom now is now telling me to just calm down on that part. Yeah.
And I think that's a good distinction. And that's what I was going to say before Gbemi spoke. I think there are certain things, certain decisions that you need to make in life that requires you to maybe just jump, take action. And there might be others that might require you to pause and get that answer from your gut feeling before you go ahead. Because the brain, what we think is our mind, we're not going to get into it today, but it's a God knows 100,000-year-old system that is very, again, it's built to protect you, but it doesn't really know what your soul wants or what your soul desires. It doesn't always have all the answers. That is the reality, and that's the truth. So I think as adults, as we go, we have to apply wisdom, decide on which decisions in life can we just jump and start taking action and learn from it and keep building, and which ones we need to hold back a little bit and go within and get a decision. I pulled Nika in because we started talking about relationships.
And I'm the relationship
You're
expert.
the relationship expert, yes, whether you like it or not. So, Nika.
Hi, Gbemi. How are you? Hang on before you jump
Yeah.
into it. Hi, Gbemi. How you
Hi.
doing?
I'm very good, thank you,
Okay.
Nikki. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Hi,
As you
Nika.
can see, I am in Lagos, Nigeria. So carry on.
So, Nika, Richard, his style of living life is just jumping, and it hasn't really worked out in relationships. But now you've been married for over a decade now. So are there any tips that you can give Richard for when it comes to getting into a relationship and making the right decisions?
Wow. Tips for Richard. Well, I would say there's a lot of people jump into marriage without checking some things or major things that actually break marriages or relationships. And they're like the basic things. They're not even, I'm not talking about big things. I'm talking about, for example, kindness. Right? People just being kind, people being nice, people being patient. You need to watch how they are with other people, because ultimately it's going to come back to you one day. It's just about the familiarity. They're not yet there with you. The minute they get that familiar, sorry, my voice is gone as well, so I'm struggling. But anyway, the minute the familiarity is there, you get the real person. And that real person is the person you already met on how they were behaving to other people who they were already familiar with, if that makes sense, right? So that is your checking point. How do they treat other people around them? Because ultimately, that's going to be eventually how they treat you once you get into their comfort zone. So for me, I would check, are they nice? Do we have common values? If our value system is not the same, there is no point. I wouldn't even bother, right? So if somebody's thinking, I don't know, simple as education is not important, right? That's simple. But you value education. But you're thinking, yeah, but we love each other. Guess what? It's going to come and bite you in the future. Because when you start to have kids, and then you need to start making decisions for kids that is around education, you value that, and they don't, they're not going to support you. And then you're going to be left hanging, and then you're going to start resenting them. So again, you're back to, why did I even marry this person in the first place, right? So those little things that you think don't matter are the actual things that matter. It's not the money, because a lot of people marry, oh, the person is rich. It's not the money. It's, are they kind, are they nice, and do you have common values? If those three things are not there, I wouldn't even bother. There's nothing to work with. The rest you can manage. You can, there are other we're not perfect. The people, we all have our bad behaviors. We're not perfect human beings, but the value system, it has to be the same, because if it is not, you're going to struggle. Everything is going to be a power tussle, right? Because you're going to want them to come to your side, and they're going to want you to come to their side, and you're going to keep having unnecessary fights. So, and then you're not going to go anywhere, because then you're not going to be able to make decisions for big things in your lives. So I would say, have the same value system, make sure that they are kind and they're nice. Watch the way they treat people around them, their parents, their siblings, their friends, you know, and the people they don't even know, like the maid, the you know, the regular people. You need to watch how they treat those people, because ultimately that's the real them. That's the real person. So by the time the shell comes up between you and that person, they're going to start treating you exactly the same way. So I would say those are my 2 cents that I would give on that topic. I'm not a relationship expert. I am far from it.
Richard. Okay, thank you, Nike. Richard, how do men make decisions about who to be in a relationship with?
I don't know.
How do you decide who to be with?
Okay, I don't want to be any representative right now. Like I'm representing
for yourself
men.
then.
Okay, usually I think the first thing we see is how the person looks. We don't have we don't have X-ray. Okay, you have a good heart. I'm not a doctor. I'm going to see heart first. Okay.
Wow.
If we take things from the beginning, yes, that's the first thing we see. Either a specific thing about you or how you behave. Well, before how you behave, I would have seen you now. Yes. So that one, then if probably you get to talk to the person, you can now ask that, this one I won't show. Come on. But I think that's the first thing we see. And for me, I think it's what I see and a specific body type.
Jesus.
Everything you're talking.
Thank you for being honest.
Yeah. Then the next thing is now to talk to the person to find out if the person is interesting. Some people are not that interesting. Some people, I don't know. So I think that's how it is. Then you guys get to talk and see if there are things that kind of match or not. Because the truth is, if I'm not attracted to you, you're just my guy.
Values or not, you're my guy.
You're my guy. And
Wow.
These are the issues.
Clearly, men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yeah. And this is the challenge, because I have a lot of single female friends and I have a lot of single male friends, but not going to happen, because what men are looking for, these women either don't have it because the focus is so different. So what is the way forward? Because Richard, there's so many single men and there's so many single women.
Okay,
Joe, one thing, Richard, before you answer that, I wouldn't lie about it. I agree a little bit with Richard, right? The package is important, right? For a man, the outward look is important, right? So if you don't, the way that we got married, we have to package you. You can forget the package after you're married. But before, you have to package yourself and be presentable. I'm not saying, look, go and kill yourself to augment all your body type and look in a different way. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying go and do BBLs and whatnot. No. But you need to be presentable.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
We don't even say that everybody is presentable. It just might not be to the person that you want to be presentable to.
True.
Yes.
Because I would say that that question people sometimes ask, and we laugh about it and say, "Are you your spec spec?"
Are you your
You know,
spec spec?
it's a very deep question, right? Because ultimately, I know people who want a particular body type that even anybody else to think, "Are you insane? What are you trying to compensate for?" But that's what they want, right? And that person might be somewhere trying to become a different type when actually there's somebody out there who will want you. But I think when you're trying to decide on your packaging, you need to really decide on the basis of I'm trying to package to be my type's type, because there's no point being the type to somebody that is not your type in a sense, because then that is where sometimes you have this whole issue come through. Because as you were speaking, I was wondering, but everybody is presentable, and how do you decide how to package, right? Because it has to be on the basis of something. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Okay, so my question now is, Richard, as a woman, how do we know our type's type? Because we're all there looking for a 6'5", billionaire, hot bod, six pack. How do we know? How do we know?
Okay. Let me roll.
What's your type? What's your type? What you please announce to the world today what your type is, so that the others will just have peace.
I might be prime minister position tomorrow, so let me not shout outside now. Okay, a kind of body type is important, but I don't think people are fixed. But there's a plus or minus, so it's not as if it has to be that exact one. So there's a plus or minus that okay, the standard deviation cannot be a little too far off.
I like the use. This is the most practical use of the word standard deviation. People tend to use it as a statistics and it seems very off, but right now,
oh my God,
practical use.
So when you say, is it the face or the body type? Which one?
I think it's a combination of the two.
Very good.
Because you can have like an amazing body and a scary face.
But we have a lot of those.
The truth is that there's always somebody for somebody.
For somebody.
Yeah.
Is that the truth though, or that's how we console ourselves?
No, that's
somebody.
the truth.
And there are plenty of people who die single.
No, that's the truth, because I think I had a colleague then, way back in UBA then, that I don't want to say something that's not politically correct, but I will just say it. Nobody's going to arrest me. If you're not almost morbidly obese, he's not interested in you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's who he finally married. So that's anybody else. If you're just like a bro to him. So different people go for different things.
I'm very glad you said that, because that's exactly the image I had in mind when I think about, I've seen some people who are like, in our society, you say this is morbidly obese. And then you sit the person next to them and you're thinking, oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't necessarily have placed that next to that, in your mind, based on whatever societal structures, whatever you think, is expected. And so sometimes, even when and that spec would have been somebody else's spec, and thought that they needed to be a particular way to attract that type. But then that type on the inside, what the person was looking for, like Richard said, that example is morbidly obese. And so it's a tough one. I was just saying,
It's tough.
It's tough. I will agree, but I think how it works out here is even different, especially here in Canada, where in Nigeria you can see somebody at the even if it's at the store or something. Hey, what's up? How you doing? We're used to talking to people, but here, if you say hey, you can be harassing the person. So who are you? Is anything stinging me, or what exactly are you saying hey for? So it's a different thing here. Here, people are roasting, Sha.
People are roasting. But Richard, my challenge is a lot of women who want a particular kind of guy, they don't know whether or not they're that guy's spec. Is there a way that men can just let women have peace and just say, you're not my spec? And I know that it's hard for a woman to accept, because if a man says, you're not my spec, I can die. I was like, why? But I don't know if it will be helpful for women, because I find a lot of women, they have this idea of the man that they want, and they keep going after those men, and it just doesn't ever happen. So it's sad, but it almost feels like the men are the prize. They're the ones who hold the keys, who are going, they're the ones actually choosing. Whereas we were raised to believe that women are the ones choosing. We would have options and suitors, and they would be like, no, you come, you go, you come, you go. The world seems to have flipped completely. So what advice do you have for women? We want 6'3", rich, wash board, but I still believe in God.
I'll take one of the things you said as in first. I think women are not built to handle rejection. We've said building that skill since when we were young. You try somebody, you write a note to secondary school, the person will tell you no, give you a laugh. So we're used to getting that kind of feedback. So it'll be hard for a guy to just come out and tell you, you know what, hey, you're not my body spec or you're not my stuff. So it's going to be difficult. I think it's going to be difficult to get that one back. But and what you said again, Joan, I think it's still correct that women do the choosing, because no matter how much, you're still okay. No matter, a guy cannot actually make the choice. He can actually he'll make the move, but you have to accept. You have to, you have to accept. No, that's the truth.
Wait a minute. But there's only one man making a move, and the rest are not. So you don't really have a choice.
Okay, but are you putting yourself in the position where people can even see you and make a move?
Hey. So I think that's probably the bigger issue. Where to meet the men.
There are different factors though, but I think at the end of the day, a woman still makes the choice. But things have changed a bit, so women now make moves too.
Quick question. I had an issue with my phone. Can you guys still see me? Because I can't see you all.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't see any of you. So I have a question there, because I've seen one phrase before where they say, women hold the keys to sex, but men hold the keys to marriage. Isn't that how it kind of works? Because ultimately, yes, the man makes the move or the woman chooses, but there is a point where your choosing or choice stops, and then the piece that you think you want, at least most women seem to want, is actually now for the man to decide, because the man is the one that then holds the choice at that point, isn't it?
Yes, I think you're very correct when it comes to that though, because women cannot marry themselves. Yeah,
exactly.
So a guy has to decide, okay, you know what, I want to be with you. So yes, that almost falls on the guy to make that move ahead. I totally agree with that. But if we're thinking with respect to Nigerian sense, as in women have overwhelmed the choice.
Really? I haven't heard. Please, I don't know what women you're talking to.
I've heard this before. I feel like this is a myth or something that has been out there.
It's a myth.
No, but you have
not true.
You have choices, but you're probably looking for is it Jason Momoa kind of guy?
We have spec. Are we not allowed to have spec?
Yes, you're allowed to have
spec, but we can't have spec.
No, you can have spec, but how many of those spec are around and single?
So we should manage whatever is available.
No,
is what you're saying.
I'm not down for you managing anything, no. But yeah, I think both parties should have their own spec.
But I'm a little bit confused though. Why are we basing a lifetime decision
on looks,
on physical look that is probably
going
to change over time?
I think it's DNA.
It's interesting that we actually kind of segue into this today. Again, spent time with elders yesterday, and one of the things that my uncle, because they've been married 26 years, I think it is, and he was saying to me, and my auntie said it as well. She said I wasn't the choice. I wasn't even in church. Everybody was like, "Oh, why? How? You're a basketballer. You're this. You should be going for that." They all had an idea in their mind of what they thought the right fit would be. And he said the day he decided, he made a decision in his mind was because then he had moved into the consulting space, and he was so busy with clients. You know, when you're a young consultant, then you're there working for one of those big four firms. And he said he remembered she called him. He said, "Babe, I'll call you back. Call me back. I'm in the middle of something." He said after the seventh time, and she still called him back. That day he looked at his phone and said, "Damn, this is what I need. I need a woman who can who is so gracious and forgiving that will put up with this." And that day was when he decided his mind. And even when in church they were back and forth and stuff, and he said, "Listen, okay, that's fine. I'll go away and marry, and then I'll come back into the church." As in, that was the decision that he made, because he said, forget about what the world expects from you. That some people will look at the man or the woman and say, "Can this person hold a conversation at my work event? Can this person do this work event that might be once a year? All right, can this person hang with my friends? You all are so busy, you might actually only hang out or whatever once a quarter or whatever the case." We see putting them in this box and trying to pick somebody for everybody else. And what he decided was, can this person make me happy in my living room when there's nobody else around? Everybody else will have to adapt. And when he decided that, yes, this person can make me happy in my living room, this person can put up with my over ambition back and forth, not being, she's gracious enough not to say, "Well, I told you 8 times. Gracious enough to just say, "I understand this fine, babe. Are you here now?" That was the day he made up his mind. And now, of all, the group or whatever, he's probably the only one that's, still. But I asked that question simply because when he picked me up at the airport, she auntie called, and I saw the name was perfect, and they put her name, and I started laughing. So when he hung up, I was like, "What is this about?" He said that he likes to reflect, and one day he was just thinking about his life and the experiences that they had, and I thought I couldn't have put anybody more perfect for me. Wow. And it changed that. So a few years later, when she saw it, she was like, "Perfect, you're perfect." You're like, "Listen, you're perfect for me." So and we're talking about that conversation last night, and so it occurred to me that you're right. People look at, like you were saying, Nikki, why are we using physical? People even go beyond physical and say, "Does it fit into my social circle now?
Yes.
Can this person have a conversation with this group of friends that might be passing through, might not be, But the question is really, they were saying to me, the question is really, can this person make me happy in my living room? And when everybody else is not around, will I be happy with who I'm with? And we can laugh and we can actually really enjoy ourselves, as well as, can this person put up with me? Because I don't want to be with somebody that's exactly like me, because even me, in the same space with that person, and we might not be able to put up with each other in that particular sense. And so he knew that his one requirement was graciousness, as well as, just being able to put up with whatever it was that he saw himself to be. And that is how he decided that even when the church was trying to whatever, he said, "I will leave, I'll come back when I'm married." And that was the case. I think today is really lopsided when people are making considerations of trying to assess who they choose to end up with.
I don't think it happens all the time. I think people, yes, there's some people that want trophy spouses. It might be trophy wife, she's yellow, all my pictures with, or a trophy guy, he has all the muscles for days and all. He has the bass voice, not the chicken voice like us. And all. But
how you doing?
But people, I think we're born to know what we want. And I don't think men make decisions just based on body type. If it's that one, yeah, I think one of the first two major decisions I've made tilted to that. But I think at the end of the day, growing up and maturity, I figured out, I want peace of mind. Yeah. So that's why I said there's a standard deviation. But I can't. How much peace I want. I don't want to live with a bro. Yeah,
you still want some spice.
Yeah.
He wants some curves. He wants the curves.
It might not be curves because I'm not the standard person. My own, I think John knows a little bit of my standard my spec.
Your spec.
Yeah. Not too big, not too small. If anything is too much, there's a problem.
Please Can I ask a quick question? What is the baseline for deciding when something is too much? Because we talk about too much. So what is enough? How do you define that? Because on different people there's different things, isn't it? So
There's no
when you're deciding that something is too much, how do you decide that?
That's why I said I think it's still DNA. We're pre-programmed for something.
Although the media has conditioned us to believe that X is the standard.
Is the standard.
Perfect.
Yes, I totally agree that the media has said, okay, this is a representation of how beauty is.
Yes.
I don't think I fall under that one because, no, I don't think I fall under that because if I was going with that, I probably would not have been with a couple of people I was with because in my head, I know what exactly it is. Just be normal, Sha. And
we don't know what normal is. That's the problem. We don't know what normal is.
It's very, very easy to get into trouble, especially guys, when we start describing stuff. You're sexualizing someone's body. This is so to be safe now, especially in the country where we are. So we'll just tone it down a bit, as in you find out what works for you. I think with time, if before you get to your mid or late 20s, you'll be able to tell there are things that naturally attract you. If I'm going to say something now, they will now bring it out during my election that this is what Richard said, and I have to now apologize and step down. So
I don't know where we land with this topic, and I really don't know what the way forward is for a lot of women, because in one breath we've said there's a standard type, you can't exceed the standard deviation. In another breath we've said that there's somebody for everybody. In another breath we've said everybody has to look presentable. So I don't have the answers. I don't know what works for people. If things were working for people, half of the world would not be single right now. So I'm not an expert. I'm still on the singles bench. So so I'm not quite sure if people should stay as they are, change themselves to try to attract. I don't know.
I don't think it's...
Sorry, what did Nikia just say? I missed that.
I said I'm married, but I'm not the expert on marriage either, or how to get married. Yeah. But I would say you sometimes will attract what you are. So
people don't like to hear that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to attract what they want, not what they are.
So you got to think about what you are, what you want, align yourself to what you want, and then maybe you can then attract that thing that you want. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Was that
Nobody want to hear that. No, they just want to hear men as scum. Nobody want to hear that.
No, but that's true. That's true. I like the idea of defining what you want, align yourself to what you want, become that thing that can attract what you want, and then maybe you attract it.
Yeah. And that's a life truth. Yeah. You can only base the results of your life on who you are. If you don't have a certain thing, it's because you're not aligned to it. That's not who you are. So look at your life. If you're attracting a certain kind of people, then that's an inkling that that's probably what you are. So that's what you're attracting. Don't start saying, oh, men are this or men are that. It is you. It starts with you. If you want to attract a certain kind of man, then maybe you need to change. Same for men as well. If you want to be able to get a certain kind of woman, then you have to become that person who can have that kind of woman. So Nikki, I think you gave us a solution.
Yeah, I think so. She did, and that's why I tried to put it back, because I think that in that answer lies. I think, John, we used this phrase before about even when people talk about the apps. Somebody said to us that the apps don't have any energy. The phone doesn't have any energy. Doesn't have anything. It's only channeling that which you, the holder, and the account holder actually has. And so even if you're going through it and you're still picking all this random and worse of the type, it's just a function of, again, who you are.
Yep.
Sure.
Sometimes you got to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
Own who you are.
With your full chest.
It is. It's also, as much as we that resonates properly, as in looking at it, listening to it, it makes a lot of sense. But societal pressure is very, very hard, especially on the female folk. You guys are trying, because I think I've made it crazy. The pressure on women is a lot, and the pressure women put on women too.
Yes,
it's also a lot. And also, I don't know if you guys have as much calm support system. Like if you mess up as a guy, or your other guys will sit you down and like, oh guy, you mess up, but they don't go maybe body shaming you or maybe action shaming you or all. They kind of relate with you and just, okay, you messed up. This is how to set yourself straight. But I've seen where women put pressure on other women, and like they'll be like, I think there was this issue. I'm not going to specify the person. Somebody sexually molested somebody, and the person came back later in life to say, oh, you sexually molested me. And the first person to run the ladies down were other women saying, why the hell are you coming up with this? Shut up. You probably did this because of this. So societal pressure is plenty for you guys. So you guys are trying.
Thank you.
We have
So be kinder to women. Be nicer to us. Mm?
We'll try. But you guys are not very kind, though. You guys are not very, very kind. Like, look at that guy. Go. You are shot. You have killed somebody's liver, that money. So, I'm going to sit down, Jerry. You are broke.
Yes, right. We were just talking about just
yeah.
Joe and I, we were looking for tall, dark. No, I think Joe, you like yellow.
No, which yellow? Where did you see yellow? Where have you seen me with yellow? Behave yourself.
Oh,
tall, dark, and handsome. Timberland wearing.
I didn't marry a tall guy. I ended up not marrying a tall guy. My husband is the same height, slightly taller than me. I wanted a very, look it up type of guy, but I ended up with a husband who's about the same height as me. Because I quickly realized that the height was irrelevant. He had exactly what I was looking for in that package. But sometimes we lose the prize because we're so concerned about the package that, it's a bit like, a bit like a pineapple, on the outside is so rough, and you think about that pineapple, you're like, there's no way I'm eating this fruit, right? But then when you peel that layer off and you get to the fruit inside, it's actually tasty. And you're actually like surprised that, wow, I didn't know this is here. It's the same way. So I could have actually missed my husband as well, but I had to look past the height and got to know him. And then I realized he was exactly what I was looking for.
Gbemi, 6'5". Are you listening?
It's so funny. I was laughing because we're talking about the height again, conviction. It's simply because I always tease about how the height keeps me in the family and everybody else has it. I was just teasing my little nephew some hours ago to say my neck hurts because he's 6'6" and he's 15, right? And I keep saying that, I think even though it's kept me, there's recessive genes in there that I hope to bet forward. But if I end up with somebody who doesn't have it and has a stronger gene, what do I do? On a lighter note. So that's why John is speaking me out. Yes. You're like, what are you going to do? You're 5'5". What are you going to do with 6'6"? And then I think I'm overcompensating for the heights keeping me in the family. But no, Nick, I think you make a very good point. I think it all aligns to everything that we said earlier, how let's not focus on the temporal things, on the things that actually add no value or make no sense in the long run. Think about what you want, become that you want, so that you can attract, that type of person as well. And I think one of the things that Richard said that I want to just say is women, we need to show ourselves a lot more love. Even though he was teasing about, oh, you people are not, kind. It's because sometimes you find it really hard to even be kind to yourself and be kind to others around you. So how can you be kind to the guys? That's the truth, right? We can't give what we don't have. And so it all kind of full circle comes around to that particular point of who, like he was saying, I realized I got to know him. I realized that it was what I wanted. It had everything that I wanted. Is that getting to know, not everything to, she didn't say I got to know him and he fit into my world, he fit into my group, and he can speak. I won't be embarrassed by him at the company event. All of those things really are, very little pieces when you think about the big picture. So I know we went round and around the houses and it seemed like, where we're going with this conversation. I'm hoping that people have actually taken one or two things away like I have, particularly when it comes to women. Yes, we have a lot of pressure, but we need to be kinder to ourselves. See what the guys are doing, showing themselves a little more love. It's easier to open up in that particular space. But we struggle. And so because we struggle, it's harder for us to express the same thing to, or show other people the same thing. In a particular sense. So I've had a really nice time. Oh, thank you, Richard. I've had a great time as well. Thank you, Nike, for sharing all of those pieces. Like we said, there's no need trying to change yourself physically or whatever to try and fit a particular type, because that spec that you have, you might not be their spec. And there's nothing you can do about it. Like Joe was saying, there's nothing you can really do about it in that sense. So accept who you are, don't put it in a rubbish package. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it has to be smelly and whatever. Take care of yourself, but don't let that boil you down entirely, because it's not anything that you have full control over in a real sense. Yeah.
Yep, definitely. Especially when Nikki was talking about pineapple, the first thing that came to my head is like, you can just repackage yourself as a pineapple and put yourself in a good package over there.
Oh my God, I had no idea how much we have actually overrun, because my phone is blind. I can only see myself. I can't see anything else. So which is why I was asking people to see me earlier. But we have significantly overrun.
Yeah.
Clearly, we're having fun.
Richard, please start eating pineapple. Thank you very much. But we do need to end the call today. And I think, even though we started off not talking about relationships, but I think we got to a topic that is very close to a lot of people's hearts, especially for people who are single or who've been married, who are divorced, and who are looking and seeking for their life partner as well. So thank you so much, Richard and Nike, for sharing your thoughts, your wisdom, Nike, because you've been there. Richard, you've also been married before, so you were able to share. And now, as you're looking to go into a new relationship, I do hope and pray that, like the rest of us, we all find that which we're looking for, that which we deserve. But like we said, you can only attract who you are. Yeah. So focus on the inside. Do what you must. Do what you need to do. Don't change who you are. Be authentic, and you will attract the right person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us today. We will see you same time next week. Gbemi, have fun in Maryland. Nike, have fun in Nigeria. Richard, I'm going to see you sometime this year.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.